On this episode of Gadget, we're showing off Gateway's P-Series FX Gaming Notebook. We'd like to thank our production sponsors, the University Catholic Center, the California Province of the Society of Jesus, and Gateway. Go to gateway.com to see what they can do for you. Welcome back to Gadget at thetechstop.net. It's the place where it's always time to get your geek on. I'm your host, Father Robert Ballecer of the Society of Jesus. That's the California Province of the Jesuits. We're the largest religious order of the Catholic Church, and we're here in the Center for Apostolic Technology at the University Catholic Center on the campus of the University of Hawaii. Now, I want to get right into the tech because we've got quite a doozy of a product for you today. Now, anybody out there who's a pro gamer, who's elite, who's not a noob, who really wants that power that you can only get with a desktop, for a while now, you've known that you can't really get that power into a notebook format without sacrificing all those things that make a notebook. Battery life and mobility. Well, Gateway wants to prove that old piece of wisdom wrong. You see, they've just released a new series of notebooks, their P-Series, which are sort of their no compromise. Now, don't mistake these for desktop replacements, because they're not designed to just be plugged into the wall and move from one place to another. They really want to make these on-the-go notebooks that just happen to have the power of a gaming desktop. In this case, they sent us their top-of-the-line FX series. This is their P-171XL FX. It's the ultimate edition of their gaming notebook, and we got a chance to play with it for the last month or so. The P-171XL FX gaming laptop sports an Intel Core 2 Duo X7900 CPU running at 2.8 GHz. Video is driven by a GeForce 8800M GTS with 512 megabytes of dedicated memory and displayed on a 17-inch 1900 by 1200 LCD screen with a 1.3 megapixel web camera integrated into the bezel. The FX has 802.11a, B, G, and wireless, a gigabit Ethernet port, 3 gigabytes of DDR2 667 memory, and a built-in biometric fingerprint scanner. For storage, the FX has not one, but two SATA 300 hard drives in a RAID array. Gateway included two 200GB 7200 RPM 16 megabyte cache Hitachi hard drives in a striped RAID configuration to optimize transfer speed and give us a total of 400 gigabytes of uber-fast blazing storage. The FX also has a HD optical drive for those who want to watch movies in high-def goodness. The FX has a graphite color scheme that is simple and yet elegant. Most of the outer shell is a glossy black with a subtle pattern visible just below the surface. The design is accented by rust-colored highlight panels on the sides of the laptop and a trim strip around the keyboard. The input layout of the P-Series is notable for two features. First, it includes a full keyboard with a keypad. This isn't a shrunken version or a toggled layout, but the fully featured input setup that you would expect from a desktop replacement. The throw of the keys is quite deep, and I like the feel of the feedback. Second, the P-Series included controls for all the multimedia functions of the desktop. That includes standard play, pause, stop, forward, back keys, as well as a touch-sensitive volume control. There is a dedicated button to launch Windows Media Center, a nice touch that puts the movies and music at your fingertip. The controls are neatly located at the top of the keyboard, and they look quite nice with a backlight that can automatically adjust to ambient lighting conditions. The unit weighs 10 pounds, including the 120-watt power adapter, and is 15 3/4 by 11 3/4 by 1.5 inches thick. A MacBook Air it ain't, but it is still smaller and lighter than some lesser-powered notebooks that I've used, and definitely lighter than the 15 to 22 pounds of comparable gaming notebooks. There's no shortage of ports on the FX. The right side has a VGA, eSATA, HDMI, Gigabit Ethernet, USB, Firewire, headphone, and microphone port, as well as an express card slot and a flash memory card reader. The left side of the FX adds two USB ports between the security lock socket and the sizable cooler for the CPU-GPU. The FX also incorporates a Bluetooth transceiver, which allows you to connect your favorite wireless input or audio accessories via Bluetooth 1, 1.1, or 2.0. In addition to the audio ports, the FX has a built-in stereo speaker set and an integrated microphone. The GeForce 8800M GTS is one of the most elite graphic parts currently on the market. With 64 stream processors, a core clock of 500 MHz, a shader clock of 1250 MHz, and a memory clock of 800 MHz, the GTS had no trouble keeping up with our games, even at their highest resolutions and detail. We ran BioShock, Unreal Tournament, and Crysis on the FX at 1900 by 1200 with all the eye candy turned on. Only the later gave the FX anything more than the occasional stutter or pause. The video was crisp and clean, the frame rates were impressive, and the detail was outstanding. The PCMark scores on this laptop were phenomenal for a mobile machine. With PCMark Vantage, we scored 4320 without optimizing the hardware for the benchmark. In a real-world non-gaming test, we took 5 finished gadget episodes, about 2 gigs each, and rendered them simultaneously on the FX and a 3 GHz AMD dual-core desktop with 10,000 RPM drives and 4 GB of memory that we borrowed from the university. The desktop finished the render queue in about 67 minutes. The FX did it in just under 6. Using the FX as a media center was also a surprisingly enjoyable experience. In the past, the power of such notebooks had demanded that their cooling systems made them unsuitable for anything but the noisiest of entertainment. Thankfully, it seems that Gateway has put time and effort into the design of the FX so that the user is neither injured by a hellfire-hot laptop bottom nor a molten lava wrist pad. They've also efficiently engineered the airflow so that the components stay cool without having the laptop sound like an overloaded 777 ready for takeoff. Even when running benchmarks that pegged the hard drive, CPU, and GPU at 100%, the notebook never sounded louder than a hushed conversation. We used the HDMI port on the FX to connect it to an XHD 3000 30-inch high-definition LCD, then played a series of movies that included everything from Armageddon-style explosion tests to dialogue-centric dramas with not as much as a car chase. In each case, the FX gave us flawless audio and video without introducing its own soundtrack. The Gateway P-171XL FX is available now for $2,800. There's no doubt that this is one seriously impressive piece of machinery. I mean, Gateway really did put a lot of thought. It's obvious that there's been some design time, there's been some engineering time, that they took a look at what people wanted, at what gamers needed, at what was required to run the best games out there. And they didn't just cram it into a case, but they made sure that it kept those aspects of a laptop that people want, namely portability, usability, battery life, etc. You know, the massive number of ports, the fact that it has eSATA so that you can get that external storage even with the RAID array, the fact that it has an HDMI port, the fact that it comes with pretty much every accessory and option from the camera to the built-in microphone that you might want for a machine that you use for everything. It just bodes really well for Gateway's future. Now, there are a few things about this notebook that I didn't like. The first being the fact that this glossy surface, although it's beautiful, although it really makes this a showcase notebook, it just attracts fingerprints like you wouldn't believe it. And I don't understand it, because when we took a look at the 151, we found that the surface, this treatment that they use, even though it's glossy, even though it's shiny, even though it's beautiful, it wasn't nearly as, well, let's just say magnetic for greasy smudges. I mean, it is beautiful, but the fact that this is a showcase notebook means that you're going to find yourself always wiping it down to try to keep it clean. The second part that I didn't understand was that they went with a VGA port instead of a DVI. Now, you could say that since they have the HDMI, they sort of negated the need for a DVI, but I would have still liked to have seen a DVI port, especially since they've got that high-end graphics part in there. It just makes sense to have a high-end graphics port with your high-end graphics card. That being said, for the money, $2,800 to $3,000, there is no notebook on the market right now that comes even close. There are a few in the same class as this from Dell and HP, but they cost several $1,000s more, and the HP one is monster. It's twice the weight of the FX. The closest notebook I could find out there right now is the new one from Alienware, and it is about the same price, maybe a few $100s more, but what I found, the main difference was that this comes with a much more beautiful screen, standard. It comes with a much higher resolution screen. The battery lasts longer. I mean, if you're looking for that great balance, that way to have a notebook that can be used as a notebook and at the same time can be busted out at LAN parties, be brought around to show your uber gamage ownage, then I don't see another choice right now. Now, that's all the time we have for this episode of Gadget. If you want to find out more about Gateway's P-series of notebooks, you can go to our website at www.thetechstop.net. If you click on the Gadget tab, you'll be able to find links to all of our Gadget episodes and where to download the high-resolution versions. If you want to send us an email, you can reach us at gadget@thetechstop.net. Well, I've been your host, Father Robert Ballecer. This has been the Center for Apostolic Technology. And remember, there's no Uber Geek without you.